Hello, everyone. Welcome into Bleed Purple Nation, the podcast made for Tarleton fans by Tarleton fans. I'm your host, Casey Hogan, and this is episode 12, part 1. And I appreciate everyone watching. Hope you had a safe and happy New Year's with your family and a very Merry Christmas and hopefully you enjoyed some time off work and you're rested and rejuvenated as we're back in January. Most of us back in the office or back working from home. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and welcome into episode 12 of Bleed Purple Nation. Now, make sure you follow us. Please subscribe, like, and follow us. We are on Facebook. We have a Facebook page where we'll post clips and then we'll post new episodes with a link to YouTube. You can watch the full episodes on YouTube and on Spotify. So please follow and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Like our page on Facebook on all three of those platforms. It is at Bleed Purple Nation. And then we're on Twitter. We'd love to build our Twitter following. The Twitter handle is at Bleed Purple Show. So please, the biggest way you can help this show continue to grow and survive and get better is we need to get our follower counts up, our likes, and our subscriptions. So make sure you subscribe, especially on YouTube, and we'll get all this Tarleton, as much Tarleton content as we can to you. I want to apologize. We have not had a show since December 11th, right before the football game against Villanova in the FCS quarterfinals. And certainly we have not had a show because we lost in the FCS quarterfinals. Life has gotten in the way since then, folks. I had a surgery to fix a herniated disc in my neck that's been bothering me for 9 years. Side note on that, I think it might have happened from carrying radio equipment for many years up huge grandstands with no elevators, especially in Blackwater Draw, New Mexico. At least that's my theory. I don't know how it happened, but probably didn't help when you're in Blackwater Draw and you got to carry all this radio equipment up a mile high in the sky and there's no elevator. But I had a surgery on December 19th to get that repaired in my neck, and so feeling great. But that took me out of commission for a couple weeks. And then, of course, we had Christmas and family, and I've got 4-year-old twins. And so you can imagine Christmas was nuts here, maybe a little wilder than Clark Griswold's Christmas back in the 1980s. And that's not an exaggeration, but it was a great Christmas. And so I had that. And then, of course, everyone got the flu, everything going around. So my wife and kids got sick. I was recovering from surgery. I got a little sick. And then, unfortunately, my grandma passed away on New Year's Day. And so had a death in the family and was very close with her. And so just an avalanche of things have kept almost a month without a podcast. So I apologize, but we're back and we're ready to talk Tarleton sports. A lot of exciting things are happening now. As I hit the microphone here, that's good. Now, the game plan was to have the sideline reporter for the Tarleton Sports Network presented by the North Texas Ford dealers. Our Tarleton football sideline analyst, Kelton Weens, was joining the show this week, and he was going to help me wrap up the 2025 football season and kind of put a bow on it. But we've had technical difficulties all week, internet, computers, you name it. And so not going to be able to get Kelton on this week. But if you haven't listened to Kelton on our radio broadcast, he's fantastic. I mean, literally, he was on 105.3 The Fan. They were cutting audio clips of his sideline reports on one of the largest sports radio stations in the country, because some of the stuff he says on the sideline it's good, it's insightful, and it's entertaining. And so Kelton and I go way back. Actually, had the honor to bring him to Tarleton to start broadcasting when I worked in athletics back around 2014. Met him when he was at West Texas A&M as a student, and heard him doing public address announcing up in the press box, and thought this would be a great guy if we could get him to Stephenville to help us broadcast games. And sure enough, he was about to graduate. So look forward to getting Kelton on. We'll get him on later this month for sure. So stay tuned for that. Apologize that we couldn't get him on this week, but did want to put a quick bow on that's very successful, historic football season for Tarleton State University. Coach Witten's squad, of course, fell in the FCS quarterfinals back on December 13th to Villanova. I know that was a disappointing loss. Tarleton was a heavy favorite for whatever that matters. In Las Vegas, they were a heavy favorite, double-digit favorite, and almost pulled it off at the end. Had a touchdown I think that would have tied the game. Y'all have to help me out. I don't have that in front of me, but a touchdown to at least tie or take the lead in the last second, and unfortunately did not get one foot down. And Villanova got the ball back, I think, with about 90 seconds left, and ran out the clock. And it was a disappointing loss, but it certainly can't take away from what a historic and successful football season this was. By the way, Villanova did fall then in the national semifinals, the Final Four, to Illinois State that next week. That game was at Villanova. Illinois State, I think that was their fourth straight win on the road in the FCS playoffs, including knocking off the number one team in the nation in Fargo, North Dakota State. What a run. And then they went into the national championship game a few nights ago, Monday night this week in Nashville, a game that we were all hoping to be at, right? As Tarleton fans, would have been awesome. But Illinois State fell in overtime to eventual national champion Montana State, and what a game that was. I mean, Illinois State had a field goal to win it at the end of regulation and missed it. They scored first in overtime. Illinois State missed the extra point, and then Montana State got the touchdown, made the extra point to win the FCS national championship. So what a year it was, an entertaining game, and if you're a Tarleton fan, will certainly, I think, be in position to get back to that game here in the near future. But Tarleton finished 12-2 this season. They tied a program record for most wins in a season with 12. They were the first team since Troy University in 1993 to make the national quarterfinals in their second year of eligibility at the FCS level. That is something that do not understate and do not forget. In our second year being eligible for the FCS playoffs after making that grueling move from NCAA Division II to Division I, in our second year at FCS, we made the Final Eight, the national quarterfinals, the first team to do that since Troy in 1993. Of course, Troy now is an FBS school. We'll talk a little bit about them lately. There's a Tarleton tie-in to Troy coming up later in the show. We were the co-champions of the United Athletic Conference along with Abilene Christian, and Tarleton today, it was announced, finished as the number 6 team in the nation in FCS football. So congratulations to Coach Whitten and his entire staff and of course all of the student athletes, and to each and every one of you. I mean, you played a huge role in it, showing up to Memorial Stadium, making noise, making it a fun atmosphere. Maybe you made a donation to Name, Image, and Likeness or to the Texan Club, or you made a gift to the football program. If you bought tickets, you made a huge contribution by buying tickets and helping us, increase revenues so we can do all these great things that Tarleton is doing right now. Each and every one of you played a huge part in this, so congratulations. What a season it was. Now, the transfer portal is heating up, and if you remember last year, Tarleton was able somehow to pretty much get everyone back from that team last year that made the second round of the FCS playoffs. Remember that we won a home game in round 1 against Creighton, I believe, and then went on the road in round 2 and fell at South Dakota. And they got almost everyone back. That I don't think we lost anyone to the transfer portal last year. But unfortunately, this year, there are a number of players that have hit the transfer portal that are wearing the purple and white. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but kind of the top 3 in my mind. Cody Jackson, the wide receiver who played at Houston and Oklahoma, been at Tarleton for 2 years, was a second team all UAC selection this year, 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns in his 2 years at Tarleton. He entered the portal and he is committed to Iowa State, so certainly wish him the best of luck. What a career he had, and he actually got hurt in the playoff game in the second round against North Dakota. He got hurt in the first half and he didn't play again the rest of the game. Tarleton still won against a good North Dakota team, but boy, that certainly hurt not having Cody Jackson in that game against Villanova, and we wish Cody the best of luck. Offensive lineman Braden Smith, one of the best offensive linemen in the country at the FCS level. He was an FCS freshman All-American his first year at Tarleton. This past year, he was an FCS All-American, first team All-Conference player. Braden Smith has hit the portal, and he is going to go to Iowa State, where he will play with Cody Jackson. So Braden been a great player for Tarleton in his 2 years, and we certainly wish him the best. You hate to see these folks go, but both of those guys were here more than 1 year. They made a huge impact, and we certainly, if you can get a player like Braden Smith, folks, I mean, you can all day long be sad or maybe you're mad that he's in the portal, but if you can get a player like Braden Smith and Cody Jackson for 2 years at Tarleton, and I told you up front, hey, we're going to get Braden Smith as an offensive lineman, but we're only going to get him for 2 years. You'd take it all day on the front end, and that's what you got to do to be successful at the FCS level. We wish them the best of luck. And then freshman running back Trey Page III, who is a finalist for the Jerry Rice Award, which is the Outstanding Freshman Offensive Player. I guess it's outstanding freshman overall in FCS. He was a finalist for that award in his 1 year as a true freshman this year. In only 8 games, he rushed for 839 yards and he had 7 rushing touchdowns. He missed the last 4 games of the year after a season-ending injury. Trey Page III is now in the transfer portal, and he actually entered the transfer portal at halftime of the Villanova game, which, I'm never going to fault someone for entering the portal in this age of college athletics, but announcing that you're going to enter the transfer portal at halftime when your team is playing in the FCS playoffs was, in my mind, a little bush league and unprofessional. So we still wish Trey the best of luck. I don't know why in the heck you'd put your name in the transfer portal on social media at halftime of an FCS playoff game, but we'll see where Trey Page goes. So those are the 3 biggest. There are others that made an impact, and there's been a number of players on campus that are in the transfer portal looking at Tarleton. If you're on Twitter, you can see a lot of the players that have made visits. So the Tarleton Texans are very active in the transfer portal, and I'm not too. I mean, you hate to lose players like that, but it's going to happen. But this coaching staff, they have some great, and I know we give Coach Witten a lot of credit. He's the head coach, but there's a lot of coaches on that staff that are great recruiters, and I think Tarleton will reload. And will we be 12-2 next season? I don't know. Do you need to be 12-2? I mean, Illinois State was 8-4 in the regular season. Now I know they're in that Missouri Valley Conference, which is very tough. It's the toughest conference in FCS football, but you don't necessarily have to be 12-2. And in the regular season, we were 10-2 to make the FCS playoffs. I mean, you could lose 3 or 4 games and still make the playoffs. So will we be 10-2 in the regular season again next year? I don't know, but I think we'll be in a position at the end of the day to make a run in the FCS playoffs again. We'll see who comes in on the transfer portal, and certainly in future shows, we'll report and do the best we can and hopefully get somebody from Tarleton maybe on to talk about some of the new faces once we know who all has committed to Tarleton State University. So we will certainly keep you up to date on that. So that's a bow on football season. And again, Kelton will be back on in a week or two. Kelton Weens, the sideline reporter for Tarleton Football on the radio, and we'll continue to kind of summarize the football season, and we'll keep you updated. We're going to move into basketball, women and men's basketball and softball and baseball, but we're always going to continue to report on Tarleton football because I love it, whether you like it or not. I mean, football is, the number 1 revenue generator for an athletic department. And it's this program at Tarleton right now with what Coach Wood and his staff have done. They're driving the bus. And so we're going to keep reporting and keeping you in the loop and letting you know during each show if there's things that happen on the football side. We'll keep reporting and we'll keep you informed as much as we can. I want to go into our final here on part 1, a final segment. I'm going to start doing some question and answers Q&A sessions called Texan Talk. So this is going to be our first Texan Talk. I know you're very, very excited to be here in Texan Talk. Probably kind of like being in Cowboy Chemistry your freshman year at Tarleton or whatever class it was. I didn't like any of the science classes personally, but I wasn't good at them. But hopefully Texan Talk is a little more fun than Cowboy Chemistry. But if you have a question and you want me to answer it, you can email me at kchogan2004@gmail.com or reach out on Twitter or Facebook, Bleed Purple Nation, and shoot me a message. And each week I'll answer questions and do my best to answer questions. Now, I did work in the athletic department for a period of time and at Tarleton and UTEP, and I broadcast college athletics games on the radio, whatnot. So I know a little bit, but I do not know the answer to every question. So what my commitment to you is, if you ask a question and I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know the answer and I'll try to find it, but I'll do my best and know that this is my commentary and this is my opinion. I don't work for the athletic department. I'm a supporter of it. I'm a Texas Club member, and I give to our Light the Stack name, image, and likeness program. But so I'm invested in it, but I don't speak for athletics. Our podcast here, Bleed Purple Nation, we have a licensing agreement with the university, so they're very supportive of us and they've been very good to us, but we are not affiliated with the university. So a lot of this is going to be my opinion and my commentary. So I got 2 questions. First questions. These first 2 questions come from Jason Bryant, Tarleton alum, member of the Tarleton Alumni Association Board of Directors. Shout out to Jason. If you've been out to the Yard, which is that awesome tailgate right outside the new side of Memorial Stadium, right there in parking lot B or whatever it is, right along Harbin Street. You've probably seen I guess that would be, help me out guys here, that would be the northwest side of the stadium, right there in the catty corner to the press box. You'll see the yard, and that's the Tarleton Alumni Association tailgate. And if you are a member of the TAA, you can get in the tailgate each week for free food. You get free drinks. If you're not a member, you need to just join the Alumni Association. You don't have to be an alumnus to join, but you can also pay at the gate. But it's an awesome experience, and that Tarleton Alumni Association, the yard tailgate, and Jason was the one that was out there kind of setting up as a board member, setting up and tearing down each week. And so thanks to Jason and the entire board and all the Tarleton Alumni Association staff for a great experience. I went out there 3 times this season before games and had a great time. Probably had one game I probably had too good of a time, but we won't talk about that on the podcast. So Texan talk time. Remember to send your questions in, and I'll do my best to answer them each week. First question from Jason is, why did offensive coordinator Adam Austin leave Tarleton? So great question. If you saw week and a half ago, our offensive coordinator, Adam Austin, who I think's been at Tarleton for 5 to 6 years, good guy, good coach, really good young coach in college football. He just left Tarleton, resigned, and took a job as the offensive coordinator at Troy. Now, why would you leave Tarleton for Troy? And again, I'm going to say things on the podcast and people are going to get mad at me or not agree with me, but you would leave Tarleton for Troy because Troy is an FBS program. And again, this is me just winging it, but I can bet that his salary probably was doubled. I mean, you got to look out for your family. I mean, when you have kids and you want to continue to grow in the coaching profession, and he did a nice job at Tarleton. He was loyal to the university, spent a number of years here, and he had the opportunity to go be an offensive coordinator at the FBS level. And it's really hard to turn that down, just not just from the salary side of things, but just the career trajectory. You know, I congratulate Adam. He did a great job here at Tarleton. And so that's why I think if you're Adam Austin, you've got to entertain taking that job. And Todd Whitten has told me a number of times on this show and then just talking with him that he always wants to do everything that he can to set his coaches up for career success long term. And he's told me, hey, if they take a job, if they're thinking about taking a job, I want them to come to me because I'm going to mentor and help them out because I want to see them grow in this profession. And he told me one time, Casey, if they're looking at taking a job and it's not the right job, I'll tell them. Because there's some jobs out there you don't want to take. I'll tell them, but I'm never going to stop one of my assistants from doing something that's going to benefit their career and their families. And I think you've really got to, that says a lot about Coach Whitten, and you've got to respect that. So congratulations to Adam. And I'm really excited, and I hope each of you are excited because just a few days later, Coach Whitten named his new offensive coordinator. And it's always nice when you can steal someone from Stephen F. Austin, which is one of our rivals. I know they're not in our conference anymore. I guess they got scared of us and moved. I'm joking. Please don't plaster me all over the Sawmill message board or whatever the heck it is. I have a lot of respect for SFA. It's a great school and a lot of good people there. And so just giving them a hard time. And of course, Coach Whitten is a legendary quarterback at SFA and in the Hall of Fame there. So, but it's always nice when you can go take someone from a rival. And we were able to hire the offensive coordinator from SFA, Chris Ross, and Coach Ross has done a great job in his 2 years as the offensive coordinator. This past year, his offense at SFA was number 7 in FCS in scoring points per game. Number 7 in the nation. They were number 15 in the nation in passing offense. So they were a high-powered offense. I want to say they run like a veer and shoot or something. I'll learn more about that. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of offense he brings to Tarleton. Somebody asked me that on our Facebook page. They put a comment when I put up a post on Bleed Purple Nation Facebook page about Coach Ross, and in my mind, what a great hire this was if he was going to bring his style of offense from SFA to Tarleton. What I thought about that, and I don't think with the success that Tarleton has had now, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think we were the number 1 scoring offense in FCS. So it's not like Coach Ross is coming to a program where you need to tear down the offense and rebuild it because it's not a good offense. This is the best offense in FCS football last year. So I don't think he'll come in and just completely redo the offense. I think they're going to keep, that mesh RPO game in. I think it works well. And I think what he will do is come in and tweak some things and just try to make the offense better. Take some of those things he did at SFA. take some of the things he did as a high school football coach for 30 years and improve and make this offense even better, and take some of his, schematical and some of his concepts and incorporate them into what we already do. But there's no need to come in and take a wrecking ball to this offense. I think you come in and you just fine tune it and you put a little bit of your own style on it and you make it better. Coach Ross also spent some time at Boise State for 2 years on their staff, and then he was a Texas high school football coach for 30 years. He was most recently the head coach at Lovejoy High School, where he went 45-9. So this is a home run hire. He's got connections. He knows Texas high school football coaches. He's been in Texas high school football for 30 years. You've seen how that plays out, right? I mean, some of the best coaches in college football right now started at the Texas high school football level. So he has those connections. He's been at an FBS program in Boise State, and he's had a high-powered and one of the top offenses in the country at SFA under a really good head coach in Colby Carthel over the last 2 years. And SFA, by the way, went to the national quarterfinals this season. They were in the round of 8 that Tarleton went to, and they lost to the eventual national champions, Montana State, on the road. So welcome, Chris Ross, our new offensive coordinator. You can never predict coaching hires is, about like predicting if you're into sports gambling. I'm not, but it's about like predicting that. But there's no guarantees, but I would bet heavily that Chris Ross is going to come in and be very, very successful. And I think it's a home run hire. So that's question number 1, why Adam Austin left, and then welcoming Chris Ross. Question number 2 from Jason is, how long will Tarleton stay FCS, and should we stay FCS and not go FBS with NIL and the transfer portal and the advantage that the Power 4 programs have? I mean, I think what Jason's getting at here is if you get into that group of 5, those lower tier FBS conferences, how can you compete with the Power 4 conferences in NIL and transfer portal? So do you stay at the FCS level? Now, remember, folks, people get so fixated on FCS and FBS. Remember, in every other sport in college athletics, there's no FCS or FBS. In men's basketball, Division I is Division I. If Tarleton men's basketball wins the WAC tournament in Las Vegas this year, they are going to go into the NCAA tournament, probably as a really, really, really low seed, and they're going to play Duke or North Carolina or Arizona or somebody like that in the opening round. In every other sport in college athletics, there's one Division I, and everyone in the championship, the NCAA tournament, NCAA championship, everyone competes at the same level. Football is the only part of Division I where they split it up in 2 divisions, FBS and FCS. Now, my personal opinion is, and I want to preface this by saying, my personal opinion is not really what matters. What matters is what's best for the university, what's best for the football program, the athletic department. But my personal opinion is I do like staying in FCS for the next 5 to 10 years. Let's build a football program like North Dakota State, like some of these Montana schools, like back in the day had James Madison was really, really, really good back in the day at the FCS level. And then I just went blank on the other school other than North Dakota State that won 5 or 6 FCS national championships. But, my personal opinion is you're already Division I. In every sport, you're Division I. So let's stay in the UAC, let's stay, or at least in the FCS in football, and let's become an FCS powerhouse. Let's go play in these great playoff games week to week and try to get to Nashville or wherever the championship game is, where you're the only game on Monday night. On Monday night, the only sporting event on national TV was the FCS national championship game. And if you go, and I have experience, I worked for a university that was in Conference USA. And me personally, I don't get very excited about going to the Albuquerque Bowl to play, Appalachian State or Central Michigan, or going to the, Cheetos Bowl or the Clorox Bowl or whatever the heck they call these bowl. That's just me though. Now, if we end up going there, I'm going to go to the bowl games if we make a bowl game, and it'll be a great experience. But I just like being in that playoff system where each week matters at the FCS level. I know there's revenue implications though. I mean, moving to FBS, there's TV money and there's revenue share for the conferences. And those are the things that the university administration and the athletic director, they have to look at. So that's what I'm saying is, There's other factors here. This is a selfish Casey Hogan opinion of I just love being an FCS right now. I'm not saying we shouldn't go one day, but let's really, on the football side, dig in and become an FCS powerhouse and win a few national championships. And then let's go to FBS, because I'm going to tell you right now, playing in Conference USA is not fun. They play their games like on Tuesday and Wednesday nights because they can get on national TV, and that's all they care about because of the money. So you're going to have most of your home games during the regular season in conference on weeknights. So what does that do to Texan Alley? What does that do to the atmosphere? Yeah, you get on national TV, and that's awesome. Don't get me wrong. But it's really hard to fill a stadium on a Wednesday night. And so I just like where we're at now. I think we got a great thing going, Jason. I appreciate the question, but certainly understand that that's something that people way above my pay grade have to take a look at. And I think we'll be successful wherever we are. But again, I just want to remind people that don't get too fixated on FCS, FBS, because that's only football, and every other sport you're competing in Division I, there's no, they don't split it up. So now you are in the same conference, and we'll be in the UAC next year. So, but again, I, respect whatever decision's made, I'll respect it. That's my personal opinion. I kind of like your train of thought there, Jason. I just think if you go to FBS, how in the world are you going to be in Conference USA or the Mountain West and compete in football against Alabama and Texas A&M? But I'm a little biased. I just love this FCS football and where we're at right now. But the future is definitely bright for Tarleton State. That's going to do it for part one of Bleed Purple Nation. Coming up next, a special interview as I will sit down with the voice of Tarleton men's basketball, Kyle Cruz, and we'll talk Tarleton men's basketball. We'll get you caught up on their 11-5 start to the season. We'll talk about Dior Johnson, the hot start that young man has had. We'll preview tonight's game at home against Abilene Christian, and we'll talk Tarleton men's basketball when part two of Bleed Purple Nation continues right after this. And welcome back to Bleed Purple Nation, the podcast for Tarleton fans by Tarleton fans. This is episode 12, part two. Very excited to welcome in someone that I've worked very closely with, a great broadcaster, and someone that you listen to on the Tarleton Sports Network, presented by the North Texas Ford Dealers, the voice of Tarleton men's basketball and the director of corporate partnerships at Tarleton Athletics, Kyle Cruz. Kyle, how you doing, man?
Busy, Casey. A little bit of time away from the office for the holiday season, but it's like I've been telling folks, basketball season doesn't stop.
No, especially in the WAC, man. There's a lot of commercial airplane trips, isn't it, all around the country?
We haven't climbed on the airplane yet, but I'll tell you what, those UTA games end up being fist fights. So by the time you're driving back, it feels like you traveled. When you go over there and watch Texas and Mavs get after it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was a huge, a win for Tarleton to open WAC play. Coach Sip was the acting head coach with Coach Gillespie under the weather that night. How big was that win to see Coach Sip go in there as the acting and get that one?
Well, it's hard to put into words. The name, Glenn Cipriani's. He's such a phenomenal basketball coach, but really, true leader of men. And that's why it felt a little weird without Billy Clyde there. It always does when coach isn't with the team. But there is a sense of familiarity there. It's somebody who, he's been a head coach in multiple places. And there's a reason that Sip went from assistant to associate head coach. In the offseason, there's no one that coach would trust more. And then you go a layer deeper, you have a guy who won WAC Coach of the Year who sat next to him for that 40 minutes that helped him in the likes of Director of Men's Basketball Strategic Planning, Joseph Jones. So, it was a phenomenal job by those guys. It's a huge win, kind of set the tone for conference play.
Absolutely, and definitely want to dive into that. I kind of went off script. Before we got into men's basketball, I wanted to talk a little bit about your background for folks that might be watching and don't know a lot about you. Tell us, I love to ask broadcasters this, how did you get involved in broadcasting? And then on the back end of that, how did you get involved at Tarleton?
Well, my mentor, Brian Estridge, who's the voice of TCU Athletics, walked in my fifth grade classroom for career day. And it was kind of it for me. Growing up around, growing up around TCU Athletics my whole life, multiple family members having gone there was something I was passionate about. But then, it kind of sunk in even further. Then this is something that could be kind of cool. And, he kind of took me under his wing. I had the opportunity to join the network alongside over in Fort Worth. Back in 2007, I'm still very blessed to get the opportunity. They bring me along still, let me tag along. I'd the opportunity to go to the Alamo Bowl, which was a lot of fun just recently. He's kind of, stewarded my career and helped me kind of get where I need to go. And so I've been very, very blessed to have him in my corner and to have gotten to watch him and just take the things that I've learned from him and inherit and incorporate it into my own career. And here at Tarleton State, I was so fortunate to get to know and meet Byron Anderson, who brought me on to do women's basketball in 2016-17. I wouldn't be where I'm at without B here at Tarleton if he hadn't found me. Him and Coach Reisman, and then I had the opportunity as well to work for you in a full-time manner. I just, really that women's basketball job led to so much here at Tarleton State, and now it's amazing. We're 10 years later, Division I, getting the opportunity, whether it's working for, Steve Urias alongside Billy Gillespie every day. It's for me, it's kind of a dream come true, getting the opportunity to work inside a professional Division I, athletic department like this under leaders who, you not only want to work for, but you want to aspire to be like and to be around. And so, I mean, from getting to work at Tarleton State, working with Billy Clyde every day, if you'd have told me at 15 that I'm getting to do both of those, I would have taken it on the spot. And I say that wholeheartedly here today.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it just goes to show anyone that's listening, no matter if you're in broadcasting or sales or an educator, the importance of having mentors. And Brian Estridge is a pretty good mentor to have. And I saw you did some sideline reporting at a bowl game. Was that the Alamo Bowl?
Yeah, no, I made my that was kind of fun for me over the break. I got to make my national radio debut out at the Texas Bowl on the sideline doing the LSU Houston game. Anybody that thinks that college football is dying needed to be out in Houston at that game, watching those two squads get after it. It was a lot of fun getting the opportunity to do that. But I owe a ton of the credit and the ability to do that to the reps I've gotten here at Tarleton State. My time here, it's been invaluable, and it's led to other opportunities. And I'm hoping that I'm here a lot longer.
Absolutely. And I know that, when I was working with you and Byron and a lot of times people see you just as a broadcaster because that's what they hear you on the radio, they see you at the games with the headset on. But, really your primary job, 8 to 5, is director of corporate partnerships and, building support financially and for all the great things that are happening in the athletic department. Tell folks a little bit about that role, and if someone owns a business, small business or a company, why it could be beneficial for them to get involved with Tarleton.
Yeah, it's funny, Casey, with the degrees in sports broadcasting and journalism. If you would have told me that I was going to end up in quote unquote corporate sales, I wouldn't have believed you. In college, well, coming out, but having gotten a little bit of exposure working with you and Byron, we wore so many hats, kind of transitioning from the Lone Star Conference over to the WAC. I had a great opportunity. I got to work with someone who you brought on board, David Kirk here, who, like Brian over at TC, kind of took me under his wing, showed me some things while I wasn't selling with him in the third-party Playfly sports properties, now Playfly Aspire. I wasn't selling directly with him. I was helping him kind of engage with the community, meet people, and just kind of learning and kind of learning to soak in kind of what he had done in a professional landscape. I learned a lot of great things about the community and how we integrate things here at Tarleton from you and Byron, Coach Reisman, everybody. I think the next was to kind of sit with an industry pro, someone who'd been elsewhere in other places. That helped me learn a lot. And then, him getting an opportunity to go work inside minor league baseball again allowed me the opportunity to ride out that third year with Playfly alongside Katie Payne, Katie Burris at the time when I came on board. She runs our ticketing operation here, also internal alongside myself now. It gave me a chance to really get my feet wet, kind of do it myself. And then learning what I learned from David, getting that opportunity, it's helped me come underneath Steve and have a better understanding of kind of the industry and how things work outside of Stephenville. It's a large, large world out there outside of Tarleton State. So it gave me a little bit of exposure that I needed there. And the one thing I really like to drive home, Casey, is, we hammer on the advertising, that word. I'm here trying to create partnerships for people. Advertising just a piece of what we do. We've got premium seating opportunities that are phenomenal within all of our venues, getting to come see our student athletes, folks who want to engage with our student athletes. Like I said, I have Matt Boyd across the hall for NIL opportunities. And then we do have those traditional quasi-marketing, advertising opportunities that are there, but I try not to ever pigeonhole someone, so to speak. We're not here trying to sell you a space like a Lamar would be selling. Or, our
Sure.
boy Joe Borges. Don't get me wrong, that's our guy, but that's not really what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create an all-encompassing partnership for our corporate partners where they're a part and they're walking hand in hand with us every day. down this Division I journey. Because Casey, while right now it's such an advantageous time, we've come so far, but we've got a long way to go, and we want our partners there alongside us every step of the way.
Yep, couldn't have said it better. And I think you brought up a great point, is that Tarleton for a long time has done a really good job. We took an old traditional corporate membership, kind of a Division II model that was very good, and then we changed that 6 or 7 years ago and made it a little more customer centric, client partnership centric. And you guys now are just continuing to get better every day. And I think it's so important, Kyle, that no matter what you do, that you can't just stand pat and say, oh, we're Tarleton, we already do a good job of talking to people outside of Tarleton and getting better. And you guys are certainly doing that. So do want to put a plug in, before we talk Tarleton men's basketball, if you're watching, if you're listening and you have a company, or maybe you work in a large company that's in our geographical footprint, or you own a small business and you want to get involved, I'll drop this in I'll put a box here with Kyle's number. It's 254-459-5349. So you'll see this right below with Kyle's cell phone and his email address. And if you want to get involved, please reach out. So, hey, let's talk hoops, man. I know you love doing that. We've obviously, this podcast has been very focused on football with the run that Todd Whitten's team made. We haven't talked a lot of men's basketball, and we all know, Kyle, that history of men's basketball at Tarleton, it's a huge basketball community. And so let's talk Tarleton hoops. Billy Clyde's Gillespie's team, y'all are off to 11-5 start, played 3 WAC games. Kind of give us a synopsis of the season thus far and the growth that you're seeing from the squad.
First and foremost, Casey, Billy Clyde would have my backside if I didn't double down and throw congratulations Todd Whitten's way and the job they did this year.
Yes.
Talking about a guy, National Coach of the Year nominee. I mean, the job that Coach did, you see the impact that him and that program have made, on this university as a whole. The amount of people we're getting out, on homecoming and family weekend. I mean, attendance records were broken again this year. And the product on the field, it's the biggest piece of it. We talk about it all the time. Winning cures everything. And Coach has won a lot as of late. And so very important to throw that out for Coach.
Yes.
Coach Whitten and his crew. I know they think they left some meat on the bone. And I think Texan fans feel the same because of how much we believe in that crew and know how talented they are. And we look forward to next year. But you also need to give credit for what was accomplished this year and what that crew continues to do year in and year out. Double-digit wins again, as I mentioned, Coach, National Coach of the Year nominee. So congratulations to Tarleton State football.
And hey, Kyle,
not only for myself,
real
but Billy
quick, man.
Gillespie. Yeah. That being said, though, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's a very strong start for Tarleton State. And Coach brought something up Monday that's a great point. This is a group that sits at 11-5 right now inside 25-26 season. 5 losses, 4 of them to Power 4 opponents. And then Utah Valley, the defending Western Athletic Conference regular season champion. So, this group is really taking care of business, night to night. They've defended home floor so far. But this first week showed you, Casey, this group could be 3-0 right now. They also could be 0-3. That's the Western Athletic Conference. Margin for error is so small.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the 4 of the 5 losses have been to Power 5s. I think, TCU was an exhibition, but SMU, LSU, Baylor, I'm probably missing one. From a funding perspective, it's so important for Tarleton to play these games against Power 5s, but is it good long-term for the team to grow to play those type of opponents, or would it be better to play like mid-major opponents in non-conference?
I think it's twofold. I think it's consequential. So hindsight's always 20/20 in this, Casey. Last year, Coach loaded the schedule up. Well, you get bit by the injury bug. You're young at critical positions. All of a sudden, you're staring down the barrel of 3-10. And it's not because you've necessarily even played a poor brand of basketball all the time. So that's a hard schedule for anybody. That'd be a hard schedule for this year's crew.
Yes.
I think the other side of that coin is Coach is not only making his team better, he's spreading the Tarleton State brand out there. I mean, think about it.
Bingo.
Just when you were doing, your final year on the mic, I mean, you're taking Tarleton State University to Stanford. You're taking them to Gonzaga. You're taking them to Fog Allen Fieldhouse to play Kansas. I mean, this year it's the same vein. You're going to take on SMU. That's a premier ACC program who just knocked off North Carolina at home, who's about to get ready for a big matchup with Duke coming up. I mean, you've got Baylor, who you played really well against, and people don't realize, and you will do, Casey, there's a large Tarleton State alumni contingent in Waco. So you just brought them into that backyard, really competed hard with a Big 12 school who not too long ago won a national championship. And then you go to Cincinnati, and I know that's the one coach is going to look back on it, man, I wish we were healthy because, you have to leave half the team back home because you got a bunch of guys banged up in early December. It's a 2-point game at the locker room. So once again, I think it's really easy, to kind of put it in its proverbial glass bottle and say, you can think one way or the other. There's value in having those games. And there's also ways as a mid-major where, whether it be your overall record, once again, I remember a couple of years ago, you go to Waco, you're playing a physical Baylor team. Lou Williams comes down, banged up on the second possession. Freddie Hicks hurts his hand. He's out a month. So you look back, well, if you're playing Texas A&M Corpus Christi at home, does the same thing happen? Once again, you can always look back. I think overall, though, you got to play those games. And on top of that, that's a value, we also have to talk about the value of having Billy Clyde Gillespie and the relationships he has all across college basketball. I think you got to go play those games. And so it was a lot of fun this year. I think it made this team better for what they are, but this is when it matters, Casey. Coach talks about it all the time. I mean, you could lose all 32 regular season games. You win 3 times in Vegas, and you're going to the NCAA tournament. Now it's building that seeding and kind of playing good basketball and feeling good about it, here 8 weeks away.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, asked you here today to get your opinion on that. Not so much my opinion, but I'm with you that playing those types of schools, the exposure you get for Tarleton is obviously it helps financially because you get paid to play those games, but maybe bigger than that, Kyle, the exposure you get from playing teams like LSU and Baylor. And man, I remember that last year I did play-by-play before I left for UTEP. You said we went to Gonzaga, Kansas, Stanford, and my twins were just born. So I thought my wife was going to murder me, man, flying all over the country. It was a gauntlet, but you have a little one at home too. So it's got to be tough at times for you, right?
It's once again, Baylor was born on December 26th. We happened to schedule that piece. Basketball season doesn't stop. I took that first Utah trip off once again. More kudos to Byron. He helps in so many ways for me. He filled in, did the Southern Utah Tech swing for me. And then, but 2 weeks later, I was at Grand Canyon. I got to give a tip of the cap to Mama, former athletic trainer for Billy Clyde, now taking care of Jasmine Johnson's crew and Dana Masters' crew on the volleyball side. Kim Cruz, I mean, she's the strength in the household. She props me up. I can't do what I do day to day without her. And so, once again, my better half for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here, man. You gotta, with what you do, certainly it's a team effort all the way around, and family has to come first. Dior Johnson, I mean, what a start to the season for this young man scoring wise. I heard Coach Gillespie on TV after the win against Cal Baptist say he's not the best player I've ever coached, but he's probably the best scorer I've ever coached. Tell us a little bit about Dior and his path to Tarleton, because my goodness, I mean, he didn't, and I don't want to steal any thunder from you, but he didn't, in that Cal Baptist win the other night, he didn't even come in the game to the 4-minute mark in the first half, and he finished with how many points?
Dior scored 34 on Saturday. That's coming off the 36-point performance against Utah Valley. Before we dive into the enigma that is, him putting the ball in the basket, because I tell everyone it's so effortless. The one thing I do want to touch on Dior Johnson is he does something locally called Dior's Dozen, where he's mentoring kids in the local community, and he's bringing them together to try to teach them, kind of the lessons from his life and how to kind of make the most of their day to day. And he's brought those kids under his wing. So I got to give a tip of the cap for him. He's making a huge impact in the Stephenville community off the floor as well. But I mean, Casey, Dior Johnson's the consummate 3-level scorer. I mean, and the one thing that continues to impress me with the way that he operates game to game offensively is you see these guys, the Steph Currys of the world who put these ridiculous stat lines up. They are your traditional volume shooters. They're shooting it 29, 31, 33 times. Tip of the cap to them. You want those guys shooting the basketball. When you look at how methodical Dior Johnson is game to game, you look on Saturday, he scores 34 points. He's 9 of 15 from the field. He gets to the line 20 times. I mean, he really has a plan every time he has it in his hands. And maybe more than anybody I've ever seen, especially at the mid-major level, he just gets in situations where you don't know how he's going to put the ball in the basket, where he's at, and he just finds a way to. And so, I mean, Dior, once again, he's a guy who's well-traveled, started his career at Pittsburgh. He's gone to the junior college level, top junior college recruit in the country, played for Johnny Dawkins last year. at UCF, he's every bit of a five-star recruit, Case. You're talking about a guy who starred in a Taco Bell commercial with LeBron James. I mean,
Wow.
Dior Johnson's special. I mean, fastest 1,000 points at the high school level in the history of the state of New York at the time, and he did it in the 8th grade. I mean, these are things once again, these are things you don't hear from your normal, even everyday college basketball player. And Dior just continues to amaze us as he's led the team in scoring 8 out of the 11 games he's played. He grinded through that injury in December. And I tell everyone the same thing about Dior Johnson with a year plus of eligibility left. Just soak up every single moment getting to watch this guy play because he's a once-in-a-generation talent.
Yeah. Couldn't say it better, and enjoy it this year because I hope he's back next year, but he's going to have every Power 5 head coach in the world hitting him up at the end of the season. How did he end up at Tarleton? Because, I mean, we love Tarleton, and I'm so glad he's here, but, I mean, this is a guy that could probably play anywhere in the country, right?
I mean, our Billy Clyde. I mean, you want to talk about somebody who has been an elite recruiter since he entered the Division I landscape with Harry Miller. I mean, coach has always had that knack of being able to find guys. And once again, he really timed it perfectly with the ability to kind of show Dior what is possible here in Stephenville inside his system, with the EECU Center, being built and just the trajectory of the athletic department as a whole. I think it's the perfect storm, but you've got to give credit where it's due, Casey. I mean, at the end of the day, there's one guy who's getting in that room and kind of explaining the vision. And you go back to coach's track record. I mean, not everybody's coached at Kentucky. I mean, not everybody has had the level of success he did turning around UTEP, turning around Texas A&M. And what I also find interesting is, with Dior and Coach, their journeys aren't normal. But, I tell everyone you rarely see extraordinary things out of ordinary people. And I think that's something that's been really cool to watch is that, you see these games where, Dior Johnson or Cam McDowell may not be playing as many minutes as folks think they should. But then when I bring them on in the postgame, Cam McDowell at Rice, who's the first person he gives credit to for getting the very most out of him?
Coach.
It's Coach. And so, once again, these are guys who have been admired for so long, and rightfully so. Cam McDowell's another great example. I mean, you watch him pour the ball in the basket. These are talented kids, and then you're around them, and they're infectious people that you want to be around. But I don't know if they've ever been challenged like Coach has challenged them. And I think that the journey that Dior's been on, from being at Pittsburgh, from being such a highly decorated player, I think here he just gets to play. He gets to play. Coach is going to be honest with him. And, once again, you're right, Casey. There's going to be a ton of guys knocking on his door. I mean, you don't put the numbers up that he's doing. He's already won WAC Player of the Week 3 times. And let's go back to his track record. He's already been a Power 4 basketball player twice. Don't rule Billy Clyde out, though. Once again, I think people would be surprised, at Dior and his relationship. They're very close. So, once again, I mean, Dior Johnson, I go back to what I originally said, though. Phenomenal basketball player and even more phenomenal human being. He's just been great to be around. And someone, like I said, back to my original point too, Casey, you just live up every moment watching him because he's a special person to be around and he's a special basketball player to watch.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Dior's doesn't. So great to learn a little bit more about that young man. Another new face on this roster, Cam McDowell. I mean, he comes over. He's the second leading scorer in all of Division II basketball. You have to help me out here. I think he was at Northwest Oklahoma State. What's Cam brought to this program? I know we didn't see him against Cal Baptist. Hopefully we see him. This will be released Thursday tonight. Hopefully we see him tonight against Abilene Christian. What's Cam brought to the program?
It's another elite scorer. Also, that Cam McDowell brings energy on both ends of the floor. Not to say Dior doesn't. Dior's a great defender too. Cam McDowell, and Coach has brought this up, when Cam's locked in and playing at his best, he can make as much of an impact as a defender and an offensive player as anybody on the team. He's another one of those guys, really infectious personality. He's a guy you can tell really enjoys being around his teammates and playing on this team. That's something else I think that's key with him and Dior Johnson, on the road less traveled they've gone on. It's hard when you're moving around to really kind of get that close knit and that, that team feel. Sure, you've got guys along the way you're close with, but this really, when you watch Cam McDowell, whether it be the games like Rice, whenever he is, 20 plus points, which he's done in 4 of the last 5 games he's played in, or whether it's games where he's maybe not seeing as much time. I saw on, Saturday when he doesn't play a minute, he's down at the end of the bench just kind of having fun with Matthias Vrabel. I mean, and not that he doesn't want to be out there and doesn't want to play more than anybody, but you can tell Cam likes being part of this basketball team. He's a great teammate. But I think Dior would tell you he's as capable, scoring the basketball as anybody, on the floor. Freddie Hicks would tell you that all of his teammates are so confident in the abilities that Cam McDowell has. Once again, I tell everyone the same thing. I've never coached a day of basketball in my life. I'm here to report the action I see in front of me. I would be hard-pressed to say that Coach is not going to get Cam flexed back into the rotation. Saturday was just one of those games, man, and you got to ride the guys that you've got out there. They were playing well at the time. Cam McDowell, though, you go back to the proofs in the pudding, Casey. 4 out of the last 5 games that he's played in, he's got 20 or more, and it's because he can put the ball in the basket at a very high level.
Yes, no doubt about it. And the rotations, I mean, I've been in your shoes, and I'm certainly not I'm not a coach. I mean, Billy Clyde Gillespie will forget more about basketball than I'll ever know. But yeah, the rotation it really has, as a fan, kind of watching it like, why is this guy not playing? Why is Dior coming in with? But at the end of the day, Tarleton's 2-1 and 11-5, and big game tonight. Abilene Christian, bleed purple night. I got to ask you, before I ask you about ACU specifically, why is ACU playing in Stephenville twice in 16 days? Or did I get that wrong?
It's weird. And that's kind of the nature of the beast this year with this, final ride in the WAC. We use the UTA game, for example. We'll be back in Arlington on the 21st. That's 23 days. So I think it's just kind of the nature of the beast this year. It's funny, yes, Bill Brock or Billy Gillespie, and they don't like it, and I get it. I'm not in the middle of this every day. Once again, call the games, but I'm all, by happenstance, you're a fan too. I love watching the Texans. I love watching Western Athletic Conference basketball. I think it's kind of fun. And the fact that we aren't going to ever get to go back to Utah Valley or play Utah Valley again. Same with Utah Tech, same with CBU. I mean, Southern Utah, these teams are now entrenched in your school's history, no matter if you never play them again. And these have been great places to get to travel and go to. It is weird, though. It's kind of got a strange feeling to it, getting these quick turnarounds. And then I think the thing that makes it a little weird for the coaches is it's kind of abstract. Some schools you'd like to travel to twice, others you wouldn't. Just by circumstance, that CBU Utah Valley swing, it's just a pain from a logistics standpoint. When you break down, the flights, the meals, turning around, getting home, time change, all of that. That's where it's hard. I think that's where the conference is kind of in a tough spot. I mean, you're going to upset somebody. Let's be real. Whoever put that schedule out, someone's going to feel like that they kind of drew the short end of the straw on it. But yeah, quick turnaround. And it's going to be fun to watch how these coaches and players adjust, because this is unique, Casey. I've never seen a three-game league like this where you're playing everybody 3 times. And what's that old adage? It's hard to beat a team 3 times in one season.
Yeah.
Now you got to do it 4 times potentially with some of them.
That's a good point.
It's going to be fun to watch, though.
Okay, so you're playing everyone 3 times. So obviously you're going to have to, somebody's going to go on the road in 2 of those. Okay. Wow. I didn't realize that. That is going to be kind of fun. So Abilene Christian tonight, they just got a huge win against Utah Valley, and it wasn't even close, right? What do you expect to see between the Texans and the Wildcats?
It'll be a fist fight, like it always is. It's funny. So fan bases and programs, for that matter, leagues for juice with that. But these ACU games have just become so similar to the UTA games over the last 2-3 years. Just kind of the way they're played. It's kind of, you're soaking up every possession. I mean, any turnover could be the difference in the game. One thing that I'm really fascinated to watch in the game between the Texans, the 89th rendition of this, it's going to be the battle on the glass. The Texans have just gotten bullied around the last couple of games. I know that's something the coach and the rest of his staff have really been harping on. We got to figure this out down low, because if you'd have told them before the CBU game they were going to be minus 16 points in the paint, minus 14 on the glass, they told you we don't have a chance to win. And somehow they ended up on the right end of it. But Coach talked about it at the Billy Gillespie show at Purple Goat on Monday. He said that other shoe will drop. You cannot continue to get whipped on the glass like this and live to tell about it. So, and you and I know, ACU, they hang their hat on that. Brett Tanner's teams, they really want to be strong on the glass. So far this year, ACU's +5 down low, and I figure that number would be a little more steep. You look back on guys like Arian Simmons that they've had down low in the past who are just a handful. I think that's where the Texans, they've got to come out and set the tone. There's no doubt this team can score the basketball. We have seen that. I really think it's important for them to come out and set the tone defensively and on the glass against ACU.
Does this game mean a little bit more for the players? I mean, this ACU rivalry is really ratcheted up, especially in football, but is it that way in men's basketball?
It's funny you asked that. I asked Freddie Hicks that on Monday at the radio show. He told me it's business as usual. He said, I understand, you get the dollar beer night at the ACU game. They're going to travel some folks over, all of that. So, and then here's the other hard part, Casey, and this goes back to you discussing how different college athletics is. Fred's the only one on the team that's an appropriate question to ask. Why? Nobody's around long enough to live the I-20 rivalry. You go back to when you were in school or when Byron was in school. I mean, you're getting 4 years of that where it's in your face. You're going to Abilene once, they're coming here once. You're getting 8 games on the men's side. You did mention it's true. It has really kind of ramped up on the football side the last couple of years. But let's look at it too. What did I talk about with Todd? Winning helps, and both two really successful programs playing with high stakes on the line. There's no love lost between the Texans and the Wildcats.
No.
So that's where, in this final year of the WAC, it'd be fun to see. It's going to be an electric atmosphere on Thursday. It always is at the ECU Center. I think you need to make your debut at the ECU Center when it's dollar beer on the 24th. I think that might be when Casey Hogan comes to Stephenville.
How'd you know me? How do you know me so well?
That would be appropriate. I'm just saying.
Now, that's on the 24th, right? Dollar beer's not tonight.
No. It'll be on the 24th. I think it'd be a lot of fun to see ACU and Tarleton State both have good years this year and the last year of the WAC. Just add a little extra juice to the game tonight, the game on the 24th, and then they'll clash again on Valentine's Day. It would add a little bit extra juice if the Texans and Wildcats are fighting in important games.
Yes, always fun. Abilene Christian tonight, and you mentioned Freddie Hicks, and I had a question on my little script here, and I forgot, but I don't necessarily want to get into the whole legal challenge of Freddie going to court against the NCAA. And of course, we were all rooting for him to get another year of eligibility and felt like he deserved it. And the court did give him a stay or an injunction. I'm not a lawyer. And he did get to play this season. So Freddie is playing. And I mean, this is a guy that was here when our first year in Division I, right? In 2000, and left for 1 year. You were talking about Dior, and we were talking about Dior possibly. Hopefully he doesn't leave, but the folks coming after him, well, they came after Freddie. He went to Arkansas State. Freddie's been back now. How much has it meant to this team to get Freddie back this season?
I mean, it's hard to put a value on Freddie Hicks, the veteran leadership that he provides. And then it just goes in the same vein. That's what Coach always talks about. I mean, the kind of player it just pales in comparison to the kind of person Freddie Hicks is, and the way he operates day to day, represents the program, represents the university. Getting Fred back, I mean, you want to talk about injecting some energy in a program the Thursday before the Monday opener. I mean, goodness gracious, you hear that come down the line from the Dallas Morning News. I mean, it's hard even for just not the casual Tarleton fan to go, man, Freddie Hicks is back, much less folks follow it day to day or involved. I think it's always really important to hammer home that in the day and age of college athletes, and I don't say this in any negative way, Casey, it just is the day and age we live in, of kids trying to kind of milk every dollar out, moving around in the portal, just doing things that really, and once again, it's not their fault. It's the day and age they live in, trying to monetize themselves, and I can't blame them. But it's still worth pointing out, this is not a day and age where you see kids playing at one place 4 or 5 years and that really care about and have invested into a community. For all those guys out there that are just trying to make as much as they can as a freshman here before they transfer to go somewhere else as a sophomore, and then do it again if they can't, get what they want as a junior. Score one for the good guys with Freddie Hicks getting this, because this is a guy who has been loyal. It's a guy who was robbed of his senior year last year due to being banged up. And he's banged up because of how hard he plays. Casey, I joke with everyone that, Freddie Hicks, he always gets hurt because Fred's always in the middle of the action. And Freddie's always trying to make something happen for that basketball team. And so it's been very fitting, knock on wood. Fred has played really hard this year. He's avoided that dang injury bug that has gotten him over his course at Tarleton. It would be very poetic to see Freddie Hicks go out the right way this year. He's just a genuinely great young man who deserves to have the right send-off, not 7 games and 2 starts, and you never really are healthy the whole way. Fred's finally got all the bullets in the chamber ready to go, and hopefully he gets to finish his Tarleton State career in the way he deserves.
Yeah, outstanding young man. Great, his parent, great family, and certainly one of the all-time greats to wear the purple and white, Freddie Hicks. Wanted to talk a little bit last question. Certainly, if you've enjoyed doing this, would love to have you back on throughout the season because we're running on against the clock. I did want to talk to you at some point about what the UAC is going to look like next year in men's basketball. But final question today, tell us a little bit about how you see how you think the WAC is going to shake down this year, and who might be a dark horse in this conference.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to immediately, got to give credit to Utah Tech for the 2-0 start. I know we're early. John Judkin's crew, they've kind of had a hard time, breaking through. You saw the Texans, go to the CBI a few years ago. Joe Jones went on that great run when he was coach of the year into the CIT and all of that. But Utah Tech's had some good basketball teams. They've struggled. They have gotten bit by the injury bug at some times. And then I think they've struggled to defend a little bit during critical times of the year. They're off to a great start. So we got to tip the cap to them. They're the only team in the league that hasn't lost a game yet. So credit to the boys in St. George. It was like I talked to Coach about, though, off the air, though. I think the status quo is Utah Valley right now. Until you can prove, they've won the conference. They won the conference last year, 15-1. They've still got a ton of talent back. Jackson Holcomb made a great step from year one on campus to year two. Trevin Linhart's one of the top distributors in the nation. I think he finished 5th in the country to assist to turnover ratio last year. So with those two leading up front, I think Utah Valley is kind of the status quo till you knock the champs off. They are the champs. Saturday showed they're human. I don't think that they're not going to be a 15-1 WAC champ this year.
Yeah.
This has got the feel of, the champ being 13-5 or 12-6 maybe, which is the way this thing stacks out. It's a very even league this year. Like I said, I think Utah Valley's got to be given the credit that they're due and the respect that they're due. As far as a dark horse, you look at it, I think that Abilene Christian's one you kind of look at that you kind of wonder, they returned 7 guys. They didn't get quite the notoriety that CBU did, who shows you what everybody knows. They bring back 7 guys, Dom Daniels, all these cats, they're 0-3. They're trying to find that first win, a very, very good basketball team. The ACU's one, and maybe not as much dark horse, it's kind of unknown, Casey. They brought 7 guys back, some important ones, like Braden Hubbard's an example, Joseph Vinzant, who got robbed part of his year due to injury last year, Yanni Rivera. They've got some pieces. Can they take the next step, though? That's kind of the question, and we're going to get a first-hand look tonight when they come into the ECU Center. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It sure will be, and folks, if you can listen to Kyle's broadcast on 90.5 FM KTRL, locally, almost into Fort Worth on the radio, and then online worldwide, tarletonsports.com/watch, and I think your pregame's now 30 minutes before, right? You go
30
on?
minutes. 6:30 we hit the air. Citizens National Bank countdown to tip-off. Get you everything you need to know.
You can hear from Billy Clyde before. Does Billy do the pregame interview?
Yeah, Coach, you can catch him pre and post. So, once again, I tell everyone, whenever we're talking with Coach, you always want to listen. So it'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait to visit with him shortly. And, getting to be a very small part of the ride moving forward. It's going to be a fun year to get to watch the Texans. And I'd be remiss before I wrap, Casey. It kind of goes in the same vein I was talking about enjoying some of these special basketball players that have limited eligibility left. Enjoy the WAC. This is a special conference. This is a league that's got, over 30 years of history in it. When it opened, it was playing premier basketball. It's going to close playing premier basketball. And remember, there will only be one final Western Athletic Conference champion. And so I think this is going to be a special year, and it's an opportunity for Tarleton State to leave its name in the record books. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yes, and hopefully we'll get you back on. We'll talk a little WAC Vegas, but I hope everybody can get out to WAC Vegas. I know we're probably the last thing from our mind right now, or at least on the coaches and players, is thinking about WAC Vegas yet, but it's never too early to start looking at hotels and comps and flights to Vegas, right?
100%. No, once again, that's a special time of year. And that's one of the, once again, it's bittersweet, The UAC is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what that new league brings for the university, for all of the members, affiliates that will be involved with, new teammates, ones that are coming aboard with us like UTA and ACU. But that's one of the tough ones. It's going to be tough, when they play that final game out at the Orleans Arena. WAC Vegas has been a lot of fun, but that means that we need everyone in Texan Nation out there celebrating it one final time with us. And hopefully the Texans will raise a trophy out there.
Let's do it. I got my hotel booked. I need to still talk to the wife about it a little more, right? But we'll get there. Hey, Kyle, thanks so much for the time, man. And I've enjoyed catching up with you and talking a little Tarleton men's hoops, and have a great call tonight, man. And I hope you'll be kind enough and had enough fun to do this again later in the season, man.
Always, Casey, you tell me the time and date.
Appreciate it. That is Kyle Cruz, the voice of Tarleton men's basketball, the director of corporate partnerships at Tarleton Athletics. That's going to do it for episode 12 of Bleed Purple Nation. Folks, hope you've enjoyed this one. Sorry for the break around the holidays with everything going on. And I will tell you, I don't want to announce it yet, but I'm hoping we'll have a very special guest on the podcast next week. So make sure you follow us at Bleed Purple Nation. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. Of course, you can watch all of the video episodes on Spotify, our YouTube. Hopefully, we'll be on Apple soon, but Spotify and YouTube for now. So follow us at Bleed Purple Nation. On Twitter, it's at Bleed Purple Show. For Kyle Cruz, I'm Casey Hogan. So long, everyone. Hope to see everybody at Wisdom Gym tonight. Remember, if you ain't Texan, you ain't